Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammāṃ Sanghaṃ Namasami. One theme I was contemplating recently was that sometimes the Buddhist teachings comes across more often or more likely as a psychology than religion. If one reads some of the Buddhist teachings from the scriptures, some of them they come across as really like psychology. As opposed to, say, religious emphasis. For example, the discourse on the development of mindfulness and the discourse on development of mindfulness of breathing, both of them, there's no mention of any kind of sort of religious context. They're come across as methods of mind training, spiritual development. I guess maybe you can say, some people might define religion as spiritual development. I define spiritual more as kind of the completeness of a human being, not some kind of mysterious element in them, but it has to be a complete aspect of a human being, which includes the body, the feelings, the emotions, the mental faculties, wisdom, knowledge, and then there's that extra element, which is, the unknown, I guess you can say. It can't be all figured out just by our intellect, which, in modern days, we talk about psychology. Most of the time, psychology is based upon logic, but there's sort of techniques and there's theories behind it, and whereas religion, many times, it goes the other extreme. It's that kind of mysterious realm where the devas and the ghosts realm, the ghost dwell, the afterlife, and whatever we don't know, we just lump in with religion. Religion has the answers, but many times people feel a bit divorced from it. Then. It's something which you pray to God for, or you pray to some kind of mysterious figure further away to take care of, where the Buddha is pointing at the human element in spiritual practice. Being very practical, down to earth, that we do have the power to change our destiny, if you like, our life. Not just leave it up to into the hands of some, magical or distant power, but we have the power to change our life ourselves. Of course, to do that, we have to take into account the nature of the self. I mean, psychology, I guess, sort of means something like that the logi is knowledge, and the psyche, is that that element, that deep element in human being, the knowledge of the self, if you like. Self-knowledge. That's really what, if you look at the Buddhist teachings in general, that's what the Buddha is talking about. Knowing yourself. In all its dimensions, which is, can be a very, a very serious undertaking, because the self manifests many different ways. You say that there's the body, the physical elements, emotional elements, the mental elements, and the so-called spiritual element. But fortunately, the Buddha, in his direction of what the teachings are, the way to realize the complete cessation of unsatisfactoriness of suffering, the Buddha recognized, having done that himself, the path through all these different aspects of the self. Maybe you can say something like psychology usually deals with the emotions or sometimes the intellect, but sometimes with the body, because the body and mind are related, but doesn't often relate to what is beyond all those, the so-called spiritual element. But the Buddha being the Buddha, the all-knowing Buddha, he's able to know all these directly, firsthand, the way to realize the truth beyond all these. But it takes, the Buddha realized it takes a study of them. He was very, very subjective in his approach to the reality of the world. The world is within this body with sanya and vinyan, with perception and consciousness. That is the world, beginning of the world and the end of the world. It's all inside a human being. Unfortunately, I think because the eyes are looking outside, people look out there. They look outside for these answers rather than look inside. That's why, it's quite symbolic, I think, that most of the images of the Buddha, the statue of the Buddha's got his eyes closed, meditating, looking inward. But, it requires a certain skill to look inward skillfully, wisely. Some people just close their eyes and nod off or go into some kind of dream world. Start seeing lights or something, or some kind of images, hallucinations, and say, "Oh, devas, I saw devas." And while all of these experiences in a way are valid, but it's in the interpretation which the problem comes. What do they mean? If we're really seriously studying the nature of the mind and body, and you begin to acknowledge or recognize, what is hallucination, what is clear seeing. I would say that one of the most important aspects of the Buddha's teaching is the development of mindfulness. As we know, one of the factors of the Eightfold Path. It was one of the most important factors of the meditation aspect of it, mental development, bhavana. And the Buddha is telling us, to observe the body clearly. See the body in the body, contemplate it. Notice its arising and passing away aspects. And this can be, if you take it really seriously, this can be a really, can say a very challenging, but also very important practice to develop. Just being able to observe the body as it is. As I mentioned already, the first kind of result of it is that we can see this body, which we normally subjectify, more objectively. You try to observe the body. If you can observe it more objectively, and notice how little control we have over this body. Most of the time, we just subjectify it, coming from a point of view of, this is my body. I have control over it. I can do what I want with it. When you observe it more carefully, you notice how little control you have over this body. This body, it gets tired and it gets hungry by itself. If you really had control over it, you could just say, "Oh, don't be tired. Don't be hungry. Don't get old. Don't feel the pain." But how often we look at that? Do we actually observe that lack of control we have over it? Because it can be quite frightening. This body is kind of, it's doing its own thing without a driver. There is some pretense of a driver, because we do have some ability to control the laws of cause and effect. You can't prevent the body from getting tired, but you can, when you recognize there's the limitations of the body, you can rest it. You do have control over the rest you take. Or if this body is hungry, you're feeling weak, lacking in energy, okay, now's the time to provide nutriment for the body within the laws of cause and effect. But you can't just prevent those things, but you can avoid them through understanding the the causal processes involved with having a body or there being a body there to experience. Again, it requires knowledge. You're clearly seeing the nature of the body, what gives its arising aspects, what causes its deterioration, its passing away aspects. You understand those, we can tune into the laws of cause and effect and avoid, you could say, the worst difficulties anyway, through understanding. But if people don't understand the body, people don't really, are a bit disembodied, then they push the body beyond these limits. There was I saw some article about it said, why do people are always tired, it said. Then there were various theories, and one of them was that people don't get adequate sleep. They don't understand what sleep is. It's like sleep is, it's a chance for the body to regenerate. It's like plugging it in your battery to restore the energy in it. But people, many times, they have so many things to do, even they recognize they need some kind of sleep, but never have enough. So many things to do. So they don't really appreciate the need. The body needs some rest to recover. Not only physically, but mentally too. You find that if you don't get proper sleep, proper, deep sleep, then this interferes with your states of mind too. Your mind is always agitated, never can really rest, and this influences your mood and your emotions. Yeah. Then you get worried about them, and it gives you more stress and less ability to sleep, less ability to really relax and allow the body to recover. Some of the meditation masters in Thailand, who are able to enter into very deep states of concentration. And some of them, they just say, their deep concentration, they literally say, resting your mind, pak chit. And one of these teachers I knew, I visited him a number of times, and he mentioned that, if he has, when he can get into these states of very deep concentration, he just needs 2 hours of this deep concentration, and it's worth 8 hours of sleep. Better than 8 hours of sleep. Because even when you're so-called sleeping or lying down anyway, your mind is still going through these different stages of, going into dreams, for example, which can be very stressful or disturbing. And not all the time your mind is actually in a very restful state of rest, of sleep. But through developing certain states of concentration, you can go into these very deep states of mind rest, if you like. And it's very refreshing for the body and the mind. Even better than so-called ordinary sleep, he said, or implied anyway. But if you can imagine that if your mind, some people have noticed perhaps on a meditation retreat, when they do have more chance to devote to the formal meditation exercises of concentration, that the mind is less busy. The mind spends more time in calm states. You need less sleep. You need less so-called physical sleep, if you like, because the mind is less busy during the day and maybe when you're sleeping too. For some people, it's very difficult to get to sleep because they're going through the day. It's like now that I have to sort out the work, for example. Sometimes I'm thinking about what work to do today. You see, how can I fix that and fix that, and samadhi tak. Sometimes the calmness of mind is disturbed by how to hammer nails in this thing and that thing, and how to build this and. That's just one of the, the challenges of being in a senior position in a monastery. You have to organize things too, and so, But if the senior person isn't able to meditate well enough, they can get disturbed by these things, maybe too much, and then then their spiritual practice declines then. As Buddha mentioned, one of the things which can cause the decline in spiritual practice is too much activity, too much busyness, well as too much socializing and, too much distractions, so many distractions. So, a good balance is, to have a situation where you do have free time for solitude. By being able to study the nature of the body and the mind, this is one way the Buddha was very, very practical. You can even say mundane in a way. Yeah. Later, the later teachers, many of them, the so-called commentators, and they began to kind of analyze the Buddha's teachings more, and it sometimes became very, very complicated. What did the Buddha really mean by this? And then they devised different techniques and different systems to try to explain it. And it got very, very complicated. Whereas if you read the early scriptures, the Buddha is just saying, observe the body, observe feelings, observe states of mind. You don't need to analyze them. Just observe them. You don't have to sort them all out into the whatever it is. I'm coming across a little bit of a, pedantic, anti-pedantic. There is such a word. But some people get very caught up with, say, like studying, the Abhidhamma, for example, explaining all the 108 different states of consciousness. Well, do you know them, actually? Do you know all the 108 states of consciousness, or are you just looking at them in the book? More important to know at least 3 states of consciousness: greed, aversion, delusion. If you really know them, you know all the Abhidhamma already, right to the end. Don't need to pick them apart to 108 different ones. Just know greed, aversion, delusion. It's a matter of increasing the quality of awareness to be able to see really clearly what these states of mind are, for example, and knowing them directly. Even we haven't got a name for them sometimes. Sometimes giving a label to them can give you a certain, it's like a signpost or a certain point of reference. But don't mistake the label for the direct experience. And this is, of course, a lot easier said than done because, as many of us know, trying to observe our certain states of mind, like anger, for example, is not so easy. It requires that there is a certain degree of ability to observe it from a place of calm, calm abiding, that we're able to observe the anger, otherwise it's easy to get pulled into it. Greed, delusion is even with our hardest one, perhaps. It's hard if we just, at least we recognize or acknowledge that there is such a thing as delusion and ignorance. It's a very humbling thing to have to admit. I don't know. I don't know. Usually when you ask somebody about something, they come up with some kind of opinion anyway, but really underneath it, you recognize they don't really know what they're talking about. But it's so humbling to acknowledge I don't know. It could be really, actually be very peaceful to acknowledge I don't know really. I don't really know. I don't need to have an opinion about it. I don't know really. Not my thing. Ask me about politics, I don't know. End of story. Who's the Prime Minister of Australia again? Don't know. No. Maybe I'd be better, if I'm going to stay here, maybe I should know. I don't vote anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. But sometime when you appreciate the value of peace of mind, then you can recognize just how valuable it is just to be able to acknowledge, I don't know. Leave it at that. Whereas so many times most of us feel we have to, be the one who knows or be the knowledgeable one and be informed and all this. And if we recognize, when understand the nature of delusion, I mean, when you really realize it, when you understand it, you realize we all really don't know. Only the Buddha knows. Yeah. Only the Arahants know the real truth of the way things really are. The rest of us are just fooling ourselves. We don't know. We might have a little glimpse or a little inkling or some knowledge perhaps, but do we really know? If we did, we wouldn't have to practice anymore. But being able to just have these simple instructions, I mean, on one hand, I can recognize that, they can seem so simple and so mundane that uninteresting. But for somebody who meditates, just being able to recognize, these simple instructions, how important and valuable they are. Because if you really understand the nature of the body, for example, just understand that as it really is. The Buddha says, understand things as they really are. Yeah. We have some little glimpse of how the body is, and then we stop there. That's good enough. But the Buddha is saying to see things as they really are. This requires quite a very, very lucid and calm mind to be able to penetrate through our veil of ignorance. Especially recognizing just, how self-deluding we can be. The self is a charade. It's an artifice. It doesn't want to be exposed. So it throws up all kinds of hindrances. Like I see these so-called hindrances. They're just devices, ways that the self avoids seeing the real nature of things, the way things really are. I remember once when I was in Thailand, one of my best times for meditation was like 5 o'clock at night, when already the meal had digested and before it got too late and felt tired, and sometimes I had some quite good meditation then. But as the mind was really getting really calm, I noticed a few times, suddenly I just felt just very sleepy all at once. And it wasn't that kind of sleepiness that creeps up, as the evening goes on. It's like just instantaneous. As the mind calmed down, I suddenly sleepy. Oh, that was interesting. As the mind was getting more and more clear and calm, somehow the self must have felt a bit threatened, and it turned off the mind, put up a smoke screen. Don't look any further. Don't look any closer. You might find out the truth that I'm a charade. I'm an artifice. The game will be up. Then you'll be enlightened too soon, and there won't be any more fun. Can't play any more games with you. Like all these hindrances are little games the self is playing to keep you from seeing clearly. So really, much of the meditation practice is seeing through these games, seeing the nature of these various distractions and hindrances the self throws up. They are aspects of the self. Yeah, they are the nature of yourself, if you like. But most of us have believed these games to be the real thing. That's life, right? Sleepiness and greed and anger, and this is the nature of life. This is what all the television programs are about, right? Reality TV. It's the real life. And don't recognize it. No, they're just little games yourself is playing to keep you in ignorance. But with the Buddha's guidance, with his instructions, we can begin to understand the basic instructions, return to them again and again. Sometimes it likes to be, we think, I got to study more clearly what these are. But the most important study is seeing them directly, investigating in yourself as they are, as they arise and pass away. trying to study them as a, outside is a bit of an abstraction. Certainly, maybe it gives you some, some other inroads, maybe some different techniques to practice. Just like in the development of meditation, I think it's important to keep in mind that it's a developmental process. The word for meditation in Pali is bhavana, development, because it is an ongoing process. Some people, they think meditation is just learning a certain technique and just repeating it again and again and again. But of course, maybe it can, like some people would say that developing just concentration, for example, gives rise to wisdom. But the Buddha actually points out the value of investigating, of contemplating. Certainly through developing, trying to calm the mind down, the mind does throw up various obstacles in the way. So you do learn something about yourself sort of indirectly because of the hindrances. But many times, you will come to a dead end eventually. And because yourself will still throw up some kind of, unconscious blocks, unconscious hindrances. Maybe they don't fit in the category of the 5 hindrances. Now you've got not only anger, you've got unconscious anger. So you find yourself having some kind of avoidance now, of avoiding meditation, avoiding, any kind of spiritual practice, with the little excuses in the background saying, oh, you've got to become more active now, or you're getting too passive or something. But it is a kind of an anger reflex. It comes an avoidance tendency then, trying to avoid any deeper investigation. So it may require us a bit of a sideways approach, or taking a few steps back and trying again from a different angle. And that's why, there is a reference to in the meditation practices of what's called skillful means, apaya in Pali or ubai in Thai. Skillful means, because sometimes it does require a different approach. Just having the basic exercises is a good beginning, but then, just like doing any kind of exercise, you can develop certain muscles with this exercise, but you realize there are other muscles which aren't being developed. Yeah. And it even goes sometimes that it requires, not only different meditation practices, different techniques, but it requires a different approach even. Like sometimes maybe even stopping meditation. This is very controversial, but some people they're kind of you can say become compulsive meditators. I made a few of those are my times. That people, when they get a bit frustrated, they get a bit anxious, they just rush to the meditation cushion and sit down, and then they kind of I got it. My anxiety is pacified. But that's, that works for a little while, but if it keeps coming back again and again, it's only pacified. It hasn't been actually completely understood, hasn't been actually completely liberated. The cause is still there somewhere. And the calming it down, of course, maybe can give you, a clear perspective, another point of view, but you need to investigate what's the cause, what's the arising factors of this anxiety, for example, or whatever it is. And just to calm it down, it's not enough. So as the Buddha said, it's a temporary abiding in peace, but it's not a resolution yet. But if you were to stop that activity, compulsive activity of just calming down the anxiety, and trying to look at it, what's the trigger? What's the background? What's the cause of it? What's the arising factors, if you like? Where's it coming from? Within reason, of course. If there's, something like anxiety is too overwhelming, hard to get any perspective on it. It can become around. It can even become traumatic. The anxiety can become a panic, and you get no perspective on it at all. You just get caught into it. Talk about the vortex of these emotions getting pulled into it. But the Buddha, points out the trying to find this careful balance between calm and insight, if you like. You need enough calm to be able to observe more clearly. Too much calm, what we're trying to observe is calmed away. Not enough calm, we're still stuck in the same perspective. I mean, it's like, in a way, that the calming down of the mind gives us a new point of reference, a new point of view, rather than from our usual reactiveness, self-reactiveness again. When we have, and then the Buddha also gave us some certain particular techniques to develop, for especially for the negative ones, like metta bhavana, friendliness, to help us to provide another perspective, a more calming, centered perspective on it, rather than slipping into the old reactiveness, and then we're back in the same place again. And if we don't sort of we aren't developing in our practice, it can become very, very frustrating. Become very, people think, oh, this is not working. Let's try some other religion or something. So let's try macrobiotic basket weaving or something. There is such a thing. So there are people who have had, of course, they start off with maybe they have quite a positive experience with meditation, but if they get stuck in this in this rut, it's not working anymore, then they can get very frustrated and give up on it. When it's not the practice itself, it's our approach. Just like we're walking on a path, and if you keep walking the same path, you get a rut there. And then the rain goes into it and makes it even deeper. It looks like that's the only path there is. But there's all kinds of ways around it. And you have to break new ground sometimes. So sometimes maybe even not allowing your like not doing the meditation exercises as you did it before, allows a certain amount of change, of possibilities, a new approach. Try something new. I can't go that way anymore, so I got to try somewhere else. So the Buddha's given us quite a bit of instruction. Not only has he given us the basic tools to use, trying to be more aware of the body, feeling, states of mind, and just look at these very, very basic experiences, human experiences. We don't need the whole list of the Pali Canon. Just look at your states of mind. You don't need a whole library there to understand what the states of mind are. Look in your own mind. Everybody can do that. If they develop this practice, in the beginning is usually very difficult because, whoever looks at their own mind even, too busy looking at our iPhone or our television set or movies or something. But being able just to try to have some time to observe your states of mind, and usually, unfortunately, the ones that come up first are usually the ones that we've been ignoring. So they can be quite unpleasant to look at. The restlessness and the agitation, but if with some degree of a calmness, some degree of point of reference, the breathing, slowly begin to see more clearly what's going on here. And of course, we have to live with this mind. So the better we can understand it, the more we'd be able to live at peace with it. So in the very beginning, maybe we have to struggle a bit, and that's probably why the Buddha, talk so much about unsatisfactoriness or suffering, because that's one of our great challenges. And only somebody who really understands suffering is really serious about making some changes. The Buddha, one of the scriptures, it says that suffering ripens as either search or confusion. You look around at society, and so many people are so confused, distracting themselves with all kinds of things, and just creates more confusion. They don't even know where to look or how to look, to be able to do something about it. Searching for a way to find a way through this confusion. But fortunately, we have the Buddhist teachings available to us to, keep us on track, hopefully, remind us of what the practice is, give us some helpful hints, and even we come across the same teachings again and again, like the teaching on mindfulness. We've all heard it so many times. Being aware of, being mindful of, contemplating the body, the feeling, states of mind, but being reminded of that and going back to the beginning again. What are the feelings? What are feelings anyway? What's this experience of body now? And it's different every time. We have the same four-letter word, but it's a new experience every time. Mind, another four-letter word, but there's more than 4 letters to it. What is the mind? It's constantly changing phenomena. But the more that we're able to study this, the more we begin to recognize, just when we really see things as they really are, we're less fooled by them, or less caught up in the games this mind is playing on us. And you begin to recognize just how peaceful it is to be able to see through it. And the games can still go on, but now you can see through it, not being pulled into it. I'm not going to play this game anymore. So I can let it go. And then you find there's more space in your life and more peace in your life. And gradually recognize, that's the way it goes. That's the way it is. Even though there's, moments of great clarity or peace, other times, back to square one again. On the second course now. But it's the same, back to the drawing board and deepen the practice. As we deepen the practice, then the sense of peace, understanding will grow. And we know this for ourselves. So, when the Buddha gave us these instructions, they seem very, very basic, very simple. People have, now they got their degrees in psychology and all this, but if you don't understand how your mind works, doesn't matter what degree you have, you're still going to suffer until you know the nature of your own mind. And you can see the way it really is and let go of it. Let go of all the problems and find that peace yourself. So the Buddha reminds us of these teachings, and it's helpful to remind ourselves again and again, just like we go over the chanting every morning and evening, and same thing over and over, but keep reminding ourselves and go deeper into it until we really get down to the way things really are. And that's something which is nobody can ever, give us. We have to do for ourselves. But it's the most valuable lesson. Once you understand that, then the freedom is your own too. So hopefully you can follow this practice and realize the truth for yourself then.